Shalom from all of us at Jewish Voice. Well, as I'm sure you heard, this past weekend, actually in the early morning hours Jerusalem time of Sunday, April 14th, Iran, along with its proxies in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, launched a coordinated attack on Israel, on the state of Israel, the Jewish state. Over 200 drones, missiles, and rockets were simultaneously launched in the space of 15 minutes. And thankfully, the Israel Defense Force, or the IDF, along with assistance from the United States, from the United Kingdom, and even military operations, believe it or not, in Israel's neighbor Jordan and Saudi Arabia, were able to successfully thwart this attack. Only a couple missiles made it to Israel. Some fell, in fact, in the Dead Sea between Israel and Jordan. And we are asking you to continue to pray for that one Bedouin boy, not Jewish, but a citizen of the state of Israel who was injured related to one of those missiles falling. So we're continuing to pray for him and his family. Why was this historically significant? Because Iran has been threatening for years, if not decades, under their government, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, this radical Islamist, I'll say terrorist regime currently running the government of Iran. They've been threatening for years to drive the enemy, some won't even say Israel, though they're referring to Israel, into the heart of the sea, to wipe out, they would say, the Zionist regime, or we can say the Jewish state, the modern state of Israel. But they had never launched rockets or drones or anything of that matter directly from Iran in a way that made it to Israel. Now, they've done that through their proxies in Gaza, through Hamas in the last 6 months, as we know, through Hezbollah in Lebanon to the north, but projectiles had never left Iran on their way to Israel and made it. So for those who are continuing to pray for Israel, to pray for the Israel Defense Force, to pray for the people of Israel, this is a game-changing event. I can't stress that enough. History changed on Sunday morning, April 14th, 2024. This state, whose government has pledged as one of its core purposes to destroy the Jewish people and to destroy the Jewish state, successfully launched rockets, which made it to Israel. Though, as we said, praise God, the vast majority were taken down in military efforts. And I'm thinking of where we are on the Jewish calendar, and then I'm thinking of two Psalms that I want to ask you to pray along with us. First of all, we're in the month of Nisan. We're only days, folks, from the Jewish holiday of Passover, or in Hebrew we say Pesach, the passing over. And we're just weeks farther down the calendar from this last holiday we celebrated called Purim. And if you remember in the book of Esther, what we're celebrating in Purim is not only that the Lord, though he's not mentioned in the book, his name never appears in the book of Esther, worked circumstantially to miraculously deliver the Jewish people, but the book of Esther also says that the Jewish people everywhere were commanded and actually authorized to defend themselves from those who would seek to kill them or do them harm. So this right to defend from those who would seek to kill them or do them harm. And then as we look at Passover, it's a season of miraculous deliverance, when we could do nothing to help ourselves. And when Pharaoh was out to destroy us, rather than release us from slavery, the Lord literally moved heaven and earth. He parted the sea to walk us through on dry ground and deliver us miraculously to freedom. So on the Jewish calendar, it's very interesting to consider that this attack, this multinational attack, coordinated and financed by Iran, actually directly out of Iran, and the Israeli Defense Forces' response to the anger of the United Nations and the world, in fact, more on that in another commentary, on the Jewish calendar, this happened between a season when we remember that we as a people have a right to defend ourselves. Remember, the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, not an aggressor in the region, those who are responding, even proactively, to actions or to intelligence which tells us that that there are people or groups or regimes who are trying to take action to harm Jewish people or destroy the Jewish state. So between that season of the right to defend ourselves and this Passover season of miraculous deliverance. And you can find these online. I was seeing pictures of these Iranian rockets being dragged out of the Dead Sea after this attack over the weekend, and pictures of the IDF standing next to them. These men are dwarfed compared to these 30, 40-foot long rockets, 6 feet in diameter, These could have done tremendous damage to innocent human lives, but they fell into the Dead Sea. And the caption I'm seeing on social media from these soldiers, from these intelligence operatives in Israel is, "This was nothing short of miraculous." So for those who saw the news and heard this alarming news that Israel is under attack and who prayed, I want to thank you for praying. And I want to ask you also to continue to pray. Now to those two Psalms. We're thinking of two verses, and I want to ask you really in your own devotional time, in your worship space, join with all of us here at Jewish Voice in praying these two Psalms. It's more needed now than ever. The first is this, and I'll say it in Hebrew, it's from Psalm 21, verse 4, and it says, Hine, behold, look and understand, lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael, and that means in English, that he who keeps Israel, literally he who is the watchman over Israel, neither slumbers nor sleeps. Behold, notice, I hope you noticed this last weekend, that he who keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Ask the shomer, the watchman, the keeper of Israel, along with us. Ask him, intercede on behalf of Israel and the Jewish people, that he who promised to keep her would do so even when the attacks come, when the world and when most Israelis were sleeping. And the second psalm is what we always here at Jewish Voice ask you to pray, and it's Psalm 122:6. It says, Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, means literally the city of peace, and yet it's one of the most hotly contested few acres of real estate on the face of the earth. And yet the psalmist says, he actually commands us, he exhorts us, pray for the peace of the city of peace. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Those who love her will prosper. So I want to ask you to intercede. Lord, protect the Jewish people and the Arab Israelis living in the land from those who are seeking to do her harm. Miraculously defend the borders of Israel. And Lord, would you bring peace, namely Yeshua, Jesus, the Prince of Peace, may he come soon, back to Jerusalem. The ultimate answer for peace in the Middle East, we can't forget this, and I want to ask you to pray this along with us, is the Prince of Peace, Jesus, who is all about the salvation of Israel and a remnant in his kingdom from every tribe, tongue, and nation. So we're praying for Jewish salvations, Israeli salvations in the land right now, and for spiritual openness amidst very difficult and frightening times. And we're also praying, please join us in prayer, that the Lord would intervene miraculously in the lives of thousands or even millions of Muslims in Iran, the ancient kingdom of Persia, in the rest of the Middle East, even the most hardened radical jihadists. We've heard testimonies. We're going to continue to hear testimonies. The Lord can arrest the hearts of these men and women, and he can turn them. He can transform them. He can cause them to be born again and to become advocates, even lovers for Israel and the Jewish people, when all they've ever been taught was to hate them. So thank you for praying with us for the peace of Jerusalem, for the miraculous and military defense of the Jewish state, for the protection of all innocent lives in Israel and in the region, and continuing to contend in heavenly places, continuing to intercede that the Lord brings about incredible spiritual awakening and revival among Jewish people and their neighbors, even especially Muslim neighbors in the Middle East at this time. We'll keep you updated as we hear more from our partners on the ground, and thank you for praying with us.